witch is so unique.
The gift of witchcraft.
I was able to see, hear, and communicate with spirits.
A very personal relationship between a person and spirit. Carnal lust and fun things like that.
Working with different energies with spirits and communicating.
Creating magic.
Powerful ritual and powerful spell. She's actually sticking me in the cult.
The role of the witch is to make change.
Blessed be, y'all. Blessed be. People ask me like, okay, I'm a witch and I don't know what to do.
20 years ago, 3 young friends realized they were witches.
They scattered to different parts of the world following magic and spirit.
Now, they're back in their hometown to share what they've learned.
Welcome to That Witch Life podcast, your home for living as a witch in today's world.
Hey everyone, and welcome to That Witch Life podcast. I am your host today, and I am Courtney.
And I am another host, and my name is Hillary.
And I am Kanani.
I'm
not gonna claim
already
host
done with your
status.
bullshit.
Yeah, like
I know, he's
I'm
already
not
done
going
with
to
our
claim
bullshit.
host or co-host status. I'm just here.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's the most we can do.
I'm saying.
Exactly.
So we've got a really interesting episode today. We're talking with Dana Corby about witch robes, which is something I don't know a lot about.
Yeah, me either. I'm actually really excited because it's a subject I know virtually nothing about.
Yeah. And I know in some traditions, robes are really, really integral to it.
Yeah,
and
super important.
It's never been the case for me. So I'm really curious to hear what Dana has to say and
Yes, same.
learn a few things. In the meantime, asking you both what magically has transpired in your life since we spoke yesterday.
Since we spoke yesterday.
So
I love
much.
that.
Oh my
much.
God.
Everything is
I
changed.
manifested a unicorn and flew
Fuck
off
yeah.
into the sunset.
But that's just Thursday for you. Only
Yeah, that's
today's
normal.
Monday. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing
Totes-
really as exciting
totes
has
normal.
happened in the last 24 hours, except for fighting with Walgreens pharmacy, which is always fun. It's a different kind of magic, dark magic.
Walgreens is cursed. I think we all need to agree.
I literally think it is.
All right, for those of y'all, I don't know the reach of Walgreens, if they are an internet, like how international they are, but they are a pharmacy chain that is pretty prevalent here in the United States. And they suck, they smell funny, and their pharmacy is the worst.
The worst, the actual worst. And the thing about it is they are right down the street from me. Like they're literally blocks from me. So it's like hard for me to justify having to go over a bridge into Portland to get it or go away. So like I always think it's going to be okay. And the truth is it's not going to be okay. It's often not okay. And they always like the ones near me, the people at the pharmacy near me are actually nice, which is shocking because most of the Walgreens pharmacies that I've been to, they are not nice. But I had to deal because this one doesn't open at all on Sunday. I had to deal with some douche over at a different pharmacy in Portland. And he was such an asshole. I literally was like, oh my God, what is wrong? Like, look, it probably sucks to work there, and I'm super sorry, but I am literally just trying to fill my prescription that I need critically. And it's like, he was like, oh, I don't know. I can't figure out why our system is doing something weird. So, yeah, I can't fill it. Or if you want, you can pay $300 for it. And I was like, right. So like neither of those things.
So the options are either don't take the medicine or pay $300.
Don't take the medication and fuck yourself over or $300. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. Cause like what had happened is they like, usually if that happens, they'll just cancel the one and fill it at the other. Like I've done this 100 times because I travel a lot. So this happened, like where my doctor calls it into the one near my house. And so I was like, oh, so I think usually they cancel the prescription. And he's like, yeah, I work here. I know how it works.
Jesus.
And I was like, yeah, go fuck yourself. I didn't say this, but he's like, is there anything else I can assist you with, or will that be all? And I was like, click.
Well, you haven't assisted me at all, so let's start with that.
Yeah,
oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
well, you've done nothing but be a total dick. So thank you. He's like, Well, I did some Googling and found you a coupon. And I was like, oh, thank you. And he's like, so that'll be $228 instead of $297. And I was like, yeah, so I'm not going to pay $300 for
Because your
birth control.
system's broken. No.
Yeah, because I have to be on hormones because of endometriosis. So it's like fibroids and all this crap. So it's like, it's important that I don't miss that because it totally throws my system into a disaster zone. And so I was like, hey, so it's like really critical. My doctor told me that I need to be on this continually, blah, 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 blah. And he was just like, well, sorry about it. And I was just like, what is your problem?
Wow. I would
And then he
handle
was
that
like,
so
they're
well.
closed on Sunday at the one near you. Must be freaking nice. That's how he started the call.
Jesus.
I was like, is this real? I'm like, are there hidden cameras somewhere? And then
I would have
really
handled
agreed.
that really well.
I think that
God.
Walgreens is cursed.
They are. It's like my husband had a prescription there and I went to go try to pick it up for him. And there were so many people in line that were having like all these different kinds of crazy ass issues. It just was one thing after, it was just not, oh man, it's just, and then, we had our friend Carla out here and she had problems with I think that we just need to understand that is a spiritually toxic place.
I know. I need to find another pharmacy. I just wish there was one close.
And so that if you are within your power to not ever go into a Walgreens again, listeners of that Witch Life podcast.
Also, that company is douchebags for a number of reasons also.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and part of the reason why these people are so difficult is because they're so cruelly underpaid and treated so badly.
Oh, they're treated like trash. I mean, like the company, like, and I totally, that's the thing is like, I'm like, dude, I know, I just wanted to be like, I know that your job sucks, but please don't take it out on me. Like, I literally am just like, I'm just trying to solve a problem that your shitty company that you hate and I also hate has caused for me. So like, please just try to not be a fucking douchebag to me. And I was like so polite considering the way that he talked to me. I had to be like, do I want to flip into I'm about to tell you how it is mode? Or do I, because I was like, did you literally just tell me like, what do you want? At one point he said, what do you want me to do about it? And I was like, are you serious? But yeah, when he was like, yeah, I work here. I know how it goes. I just was like, okay, what
are you going to do about it? Well, you work there, don't you?
Freak out. So I was like, I'm just going to hang up. I was just like, okay, bye.
God. That's out of control.
So the magic I did was in self-control and not unleashing hormonal fury on the fucking dude at Walgreens. That was my magical powers this week.
I will say the one interesting thing that's been happening for me as far as magic wise is for various reasons, I have ended up going through pretty much every magical drawer, cabinet, container I have and kind of taking stock of everything that I have. And I can tell you right now, like I could open a pop-up shop.
Yeah. Oh, same.
I mean,
shocking.
The amount of sheer things that I have is shocking even to me. And so I will say that
to me, it's not shocking to me.
If it's shocking to Kanani, then it is legit shocking.
Listen, I've been around you too when you're at bazaars, sales, and craft stores. I know what you're like. I'm not surprised by any of this.
It is like, holy crap. And so I have started, I was really consistently working with my like tea lights and stuff on my altar, but like I have 8,000 other candles. Like, yes, I have 100 tea lights, but I also have 100 other types of candles. I have pillar candles. I have taper candles. I have votive candles. I have just you name it, and I have it.
I don't have the candle problem. I have the oddities problem.
Oh, and I have every kind of herb and incense that you can think of, and I have powders, and I have like burnable incense and cones and sticks, and I'm just like, wow, Wow. So I've made a concerted effort to just kind of go through things and see if there's things that just don't make sense to be keeping. And the weather has kind of taken a turn where it's just been really, really rainy. But
And
I'm
so
kind of putting
windy.
together, I'm kind of putting together another bag like I did last time, of a paper bag full of kind of like odds and ends as far as incenses and herbs and just random things that are burnable. And so that
light
when
them all
can
on fire.
Yep.
Throw
So
them
when I
into
have
the
a
fire.
bonfire in my backyard, I either throw the whole bag in, or sometimes I put like different things in different bags and then just kind of toss them in intentionally for whatever it is. But yeah, so I'm kind of squirreling away stuff that's magical stuff that I don't want to just throw away, and that when the next time I have a bonfire, I can burn it in the bonfire. That's kind of one of my favorite things to do. That's typically how I say goodbye to magical things. I tend to put them in the bonfire.
I'm having a slow brain moment, but did I tell you guys about the Devilish Little Things Museum up here in Vancouver?
It's been a long time since we talked about it, but you should mention it again.
I went finally.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, on New Year's. So up in Vancouver, Washington, where I live. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Atlas Obscura, but it's an app and a website where you can like go and like find like weird things in your neighborhood or wherever you're traveling to, right? And so this thing pops up, and it's called the Devilish Little Things Museum. And I was like, what is this? And it's this woman's home that is a church that's been converted into a residence. And she's a very eccentric German woman who's super nice.
I remember meeting her because she had all those little devils, right? When we were at that bazaar, the Oddities Bazaar a couple years ago, where they had the bunnies. Okay.
Yes. So she has one of the largest, she has a massive collection of devil art, figurines, antiques, vintage pieces dating back to like the 1700s. Like she used to work in the film industry. She has a huge Krampus. She has a giant Krampus. So like during the holidays, she does a giant Krampus thing. She has Krampus art all over the place. It is so awesome, and we have to go. Like, it is the coolest. She is so knowledgeable. So she used to work in the film industry. And so she's like very creative. She's also does ceramic art and bead, like just like phenomenal beadwork. Right. And it is like, it is insane, the collection she has. And like some of them are like remarkably beautiful. Like some of them are funny. There's like an erotic section. There's like a kind of kitschy from the 50s, like that kind of like gambling devil, like vintage pieces where like the devil's like dealing cards or the women have devil horns, whatever. It's like really, really cute. And she is super, super supportive of the witchcraft community. She often shoots people over to a little witchcraft shop that's around the corner from me and tells people to visit there. And she said that she has had a coven come through the other day. She's super nice. So we definitely have to come check it out. And I definitely think that she should come on. We should interview her. I'm putting this out to the world, manifesting that she'll want to come on our podcast and talk to us about misconceptions about the devil, which is really, really cool. And just like devil art in general, it's pretty rad. And her house is stunning. It looks like a museum.
Yeah, I remember seeing all of her stuff, and she was a neat lady. I'm still holding out space that we can get up to the Krampus festival in Leavenworth next year.
That would be so fun.
Yeah,
she's cool too because she has she talks a lot about Krampus and like the history of Krampus. She had a giant Krampus tree, and then all year round she has a giant Krampus statue that you can like take photos with, and like it's awesome.
Oh man,
but yeah, the Krampus ornaments.
I'm thinking we need to have like a whole Witch Squad meetup though next year in Leavenworth.
Oh my God, yes.
Do a whole after we have our Witch Squad meetup at Sunfest, which by the way we'll talk about later in the year, will be a thing.
But yeah, super, super awesome.
So what I have, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this when we had our introduction, but I think it's because of all the tornado warnings I got like totally thrown off. But I was just listening to last week's episode this morning about like I had already forgotten Kanani's sage advice about tornadoes. Just don't run at them. Yeah. But I actually have a couple of things going on that I wanted to let everybody know about that I'm really excited about. Number one, I have produced a 12-month oracle with a bonus oracle piece for 2024. So it is a 27-page guide to help people basically navigate each month with a tarot card theme. So, for example, the month of January, the theme is the Lovers. And so it's like what kind of opportunities you might encounter with this card and what kinds of obstacles you might have. And then also a spirit practice for how you can embrace more of that energy into your life throughout the month. And then also there's a card for the year, which this year the card is the Moon card. And so it's an electronic PDF. You can download it. I will share it on you can find it in my Instagram, but I will also share it on TWL Instagram so you can get it. I'm only leaving it available until the end of January. It's only $27 and you'll have it all year long. But that will, so just if you're looking to get more guidance this year, especially from the tarot, then this is a really, really great way to just like check in at the beginning of the month as to what some of the general opportunities and obstacles and stuff like that are going to be. And another thing that I forgot to tell you guys, I am unveiling a new platform for my witchcraft work. It's a space for the magically minded who are looking to deepen, who are basically integrate their witchcraft spirituality into their lives in order to find purpose and navigate crossroads and go through, changes of life and such. So, I will be having a free virtual event on January 24th, and everybody that's listening is completely invited. So if you want to come and check it out and see what I'm doing, I will have giveaways and we'll get to hang, probably do some free mini readings and all that kind of thing. And it'll be super fun and exciting. So yes, again, follow on my page is Courtney A. Weber, and also on TWL, I will make sure everybody knows about it.
Speaking of people that don't know how to tell anyone anything, I am one of those people. Basically since the beginning of the year, I'm like, you need to update people. So I have had a number of listeners reach out about voice lessons. I actually have some spots opening up some extra spots in my studio. And these are going to be geared. There's two different kind of types of lessons that I'm doing. One is traditional singing. I mean, I teach most genres, maybe not advanced jazz, but I've worked with metal singers, musical theater singers, folk singers, opera singers, whatever. But I also have started getting really into doing like intuitive vocalization and like trance vocalization. So if you're interested in using your voice to create energetic shift, or you're just interested in getting in touch with what your voice can do for you, the sound is a really interesting mechanism, especially for breaking up energy in stagnant spaces. It's why people use rattles or bells or, sound to break up energy. And the voice, I have found in my experience, can do something similar. So I'm also, I'm open to that type of thing as well. So if you're just, and I'm always open to people who are just like, I want to be better at karaoke, or I just like to sing for fun and I've always wanted to do it. So you can reach out to me on my Instagram page which is Operification. You can find me from all of our on thatwitchlife.com as well. Or you can find me on our That Witch Life Instagram page. You can find links to my page there as well. If anyone is interested, let me know. And I'm drumming up some ideas for some group vocal, like kind of intuitive vocalizing work in the future. So stay tuned to that. So exciting.
And I guess Kanani is opening a shop with all of her stuff, like her burn piles. Are you going to be selling burn piles?
An auction house.
I am definitely not selling any of my shenanigans yet. I have not gone that route.
Kanani's going to do giveaways.
Every time I look at something, I'm like, yeah, but no. And it's fun for me actually, because in going through the things, there's actually a significant amount of things that I've had since I was in my 20s living in the haunted house. So, I mean, some of these things when I look at, there's just memories. They remind me of festivals. They remind me of events. They remind me of ceremonies. They remind me of, places I've been, people I've met, people I know, some of them are gifts from people I know. It makes me feel really blessed, to be honest. It makes me feel, really good. And when you have done this for so long and it's just such a part of your everyday life, I think sometimes you forget what a journey it actually is. Mm-hmm. And, it's kind of like finding an old scrapbook, right? Like you know you did these things, but all of a sudden when you're going through it and you start reminiscing and you start feeling nostalgia over it, you start to realize how special it really is. And I think that's kind of where I'm at with my stuff right now, is utilizing things and making better use of things, kind of sorting through things of, I have gotten rid of some things that just don't make sense to keep anymore, but I've also some of the things that were in my magical room are now actually throughout my house as decor. So that has been something fun that's been happening as well.
Yeah, we decorate with the craft. I like it. Well, I think with all of that, let's hear from our sponsors and come back and talk to our new friend Dana. What do y'all say?
Yeah.
I am so excited.
So excited. When I think of fall, I think of curling up on the couch with the dogs under a cozy blanket, sipping on some hot tea. It's the ultimate comfort move for me, and I am so excited to hear about a new tea blend called Soulshine from the Jasmine Pearl Tea Company, created by their tea Jedi, Jeff. Soulshine celebrates the magic of simplicity with dandelion root, which is very grounding, and uplifting tulsi. It is so good, and I am so here for this.
I love their Burnside chai this time of year. It is finally chai weather after all this time, and the Indian black tea is blended with house roasted spices, Chinese pu'er, and ginger. And to make it extra decadent and get the full experience, you can simmer it in a milk of your choice for several minutes, strain, and if you have a sweet tooth like me, add a little sweetener.
We all know that a new baby means lots of sleepless nights, but I've got to say Dark Forest, which is the Jasmine Pearl's low caffeine herbal blend, is perfect for the evenings as they get darker. And I try to cope on 3 hours of sleep, but would like to sleep at some point that night. The sweet fullness of the chicory is balanced out by rosemary top notes. It's almost dessert-like with hints of nutmeg, cacao, and ginger spice.
Oh my God, I love Dark Forest. It gives me all of the cozy fall vibes for sure. I also love the Jamaica. It has this gorgeous popped rice nuttiness that really makes it a great way to introduce yourself to green tea. Such a perfect morning ritual.
Supporting small businesses are very important to us, and the Jasmine Pearl is a family-owned tea importer and specialty tea blender based in Portland, Oregon, who has been crafting tea blends for 17 years and direct sourcing teas from origin since 2004. Their blending and sourcing philosophy is based in the love of fine teas and herbs, which is why they focus on blending with exceptional ingredients, hand blending each batch using mainly organic ingredients, and oh boy, does it show.
So you can check out these phenomenal teas at thejasminepearl.com and save 10% with coupon code WITCH2023. That's WITCH2023. You get free shipping on orders over $35, and don't forget to let them know you heard about them on That Witch Life podcast. Thank you to the Jasmine Pearl for being an episode sponsor.
We are so excited about our new sponsor partnership with Luna & Company Soapery. Luna & Co. is an enchanting soapery with the purpose of elevating your magic through the art of self-care. As witches, this husband and wife team that are behind Luna & Co. Soapery have passionately handcrafted natural soaps and ritual oils with intention. I have not only used them myself, but I have also personally gifted many of their soaps and body oils, and I cannot get enough of them.
They are fantastic. We have included them in our subscription boxes, and I personally have been using their Bridget soap in some of my cleansing rituals. They have all kinds of handcrafted natural soaps that are really great for your skin, but they are truly magical. And so it's a really wonderful way to incorporate magic into your everyday self-care routine.
Agree. I use the Hecate soap, and it is absolutely lush. It is so good. Their meticulously crafted planetary and goddess collections are more than just soaps. They are sacred creations, ritually consecrated with the profound intention of helping you channel the unique energies of planets and goddesses in your spell work, rituals, and manifestations.
That is so true. And whether you're just taking a quick shower or a leisurely bath, Luna & Co. Soapery creates a potent tool for personal transformation and spiritual growth. You can elevate your magic and amplify your manifestations with Luna & Co. Soapery. I can personally say I love their Luna and Persephone soaps. They are my favorites.
You can find Luna & Co. Soapery on Instagram at Luna Co. Soap and at their website at lunacosoap.com. Luna & Co. Soapery ships domestically, but they also ship internationally, friends. So for international shipping, please contact them directly prior to purchasing. And everybody can get 15% off your order when you use code LunaWitch15. That's LunaWitch15.
Thank you so much to Luna & Co. Soapery for being an episode sponsor.
Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. And today we are talking to Dana Corby. Dana Corby is known to many in the pagan world as the female vocalist and dulcimer player on Gwydion Penderwen's 1975 Songs for the Old Religion. She originally trained in Lady Sara Cunningham's First Church of Tiphareth, and she is now the senior most practicing High Priestess of the Mohsian Tradition, with all its existing covens descending from her. This tracing of who initiated whom is referred to in Wicca as lineage, and it is legitimately important knowledge within each tradition. Dana has always written, first appearing in The Green Egg, and by 1976 becoming co-editor of and a regular contributor to the legendary Crystal Well. She has contributed articles to Red Garters, The Witch's Voice, and numerous small publications. She has also contributed to several anthologies, including Aidan Kelly's A Tapestry of Witches and Keepers of the Flame, Interviews with Pagan Elders by Morgana Davies Aradia Lynch. From 2014 to 2016, she had a twice monthly blog on the Patheos Pagan Agora. She originally wrote The Witch's Runes, her first Kindle, in 1993 as the instruction manual for the Runestone set she made. But with the addition of a chapter on how to make it stand, it now stands alone. Dana has been a fervent defender of pagan civil rights as long as she has been one, starting with an outraged letter to her local police chief for referring to rioters as godless pagans, appearing on radio talk shows and sending letters to editors, and after moving to the Pacific Northwest, becoming a community organizer, helping to found the first Earth Religions Cultural Association in Seattle, and after moving, the Tacoma Earth Religions Revival Association, a Wiccan pagan community building organization in Pierce County, Washington. In September of 2003, members of Terra nominated her for Puget Sound Inspirational Woman of the Year. Dana and her High Priestess / husband remain vitally interested in the progress and well-being of the Tacoma pagan community and continue to lead within the Mohsian tradition. In her mundane life, Dana is a retired copy editor living on an island in Puget Sound and trying desperately to keep the deer from eating her garden. A most worthwhile and noble endeavor for sure. Welcome, Dana.
And delighted to be here.
This is
this is wonderful.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm thrilled to meet you all.
if we cross paths at Puget Sound Pagan Pride this year.
We very well may have. I did the lecture on modern Minoan paganism.
Okay. Yeah, we were interviewing Fialkora, the Ukrainian witch.
Ah.
Yeah, so we had a thing there, so that's exciting. Well, let's just dive right in. So the big question, how did you know you were a witch or a magical person?
After I left my family's church, I did a lot of exploring, of course, as one does. And I tried Vedanta and I tried Zen. And remember, this is the 60s, so that's the stuff that was around. And none of them worked. And in 1971, I came across the second edition of the Witch's Almanac and bought it. And I was like, yes, finally, this is what I am. And then one winter night, I found Lady Sara Cunningham's First Church of Tiphareth, which was closed at the time because night. And the very next day I went in and talked to her and got introduced to her coven and studied with her for a year and a half. Didn't totally work out because I really wasn't interested in doing every Hebrew. And not too long thereafter, I found myself in what at the time was called American Eclectic Tradition. It came to be called Mohsian. Its founders were Bill and Helen Mohs. And that's how I wound up where I am.
That's beautiful. And so do you still run your coven? Your coven's still in operation?
I tried to retire, but the gods had other plans. And a former covener and his now wife, who was desperate. She was desperate for training and initiation. And so I have a coven again.
All right.
I love that you're like, the gods had other ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The gods often do.
That's certainly what happens. Well, okay, so you have a lot of work. Obviously, you have quite a bit of work out there, but one of the things that you are known for is your work with witches' robes. And so a lot of modern witches don't really utilize robes, but I know that there's quite a few traditions that do. But what is a witch's robe?
You're right that people these days mostly don't. They either wear street clothes or they go sky-clad. And of course, back in the ancient times, a lot of us went sky-clad. But I'm old and I live someplace cold and it's not fun anymore. So I always wear robes. Because wearing robes and going sky-clad create the same effect. They create a transition from your day self and your magical self, which is something you have to be able to switch back and forth between, or you wind up kind of crazy. So witch robes are a tool, just like a thame or a wand or a pentacle or whatever, a candle. They help you step into and maintain that magical persona that's necessary for doing good ritual work and spell work. Now, 90% of the time, you're going to do your magic street clothes. I mean, every week I do laundry, and when I do my laundry, I'm in my street clothes, of course, and I do spells to banish the negative energy from my dirty clothes. But when it's time to step into ritual and do a proper magical thing, I put on my robe because it helps me transition into a witch, which is a different, and a priestess, which is a different thing from an ordinary person who knows a little magic.
I love that. I mean, I think that I think that those items or things that we utilize that help us, like, it's like, oh, I am stepping into this part of myself, can be so helpful in kind of shifting into that space where you feel
shifting your consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So was this part of how did you first really start working with the robe? Was it part of your initial training, or is it something that you developed over time? So how has that journey been for you?
It was my initial training. Everybody had to make their own robe. And the original robes were the simplest one in my book, Simple Robes for Craft Witches. Just basically a length of fabric sewn up the sides with a neck hole. This is where also, this was with Lady Sara, and this is where I was taught the idea that your magical persona and your day-to-day self were two things, and you needed to be able to move through between them fairly seamlessly, and the robe helped you do that.
I actually know exactly what you're talking about, because I have a robe that I bought back in 2005 at the very first festival I went to with Courtney at Harvest Home Gathering in 2005. And I was so enamored with that robe, and that I also slept with it. I didn't take it off. I slept with it in my sleeping bag every night. And it smells, no matter what time of year in my closet, it smells like campfire. And there is something about being at Sunfest. I always bring it with me.
Memories. It brings back the memories.
There's something about it. Before I go to ritual or I go to the bonfire at night, I will put on my robe. Part of it is because it helps keep me warm. But I feel a shift in myself, right? Like I always feel I'm witchy all the time. I feel even more witchy when I'm at Finnan and at Sunfest. But then when I put on my robe,
absolutely,
there's just like an exclamation point that gets put on it. And it just,
that's a
like
good
you
way
said,
of
it
putting
is
it.
something that shifts you.
So it's more than just like, I love what you just said, Kanani, about like it puts an exclamation point. It turns from witch to witch.
Yeah,
it just does. And because it's something that also I've taken with me to these festivals and I've utilized at these festivals. So it's been a part of these festivals, and it has these memories, and
as you
stored
know,
these memories.
Yes. And as you well know, the more you use a tool, the more energy it holds and the more energy it gives back to you when you use it.
Exactly. I usually end up spending my evenings just kind of wrapped in it, and it keeps me warm, and it has smells, and I don't know how to explain it other than it does. It shifts my energy. It shifts my attention. And it's funny because since then I've bought another robe and I've never worn it.
It's not the same, is it? It's not the same, is it?
It's just not. Like I have it. I love it. And I'm like, gosh, it's really pretty. I should wear that. And I can't, because when I go to grab my robe to go somewhere special, that's my robe.
You grab your robe. You don't grab the robe. You grab your robe.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
So in addition to, I hear you, Dana, about like the shift, and like Kanani said, puts an exclamation point in it. But what other things about robes do you think are important in the practice and journey of witchcraft?
Well, that's mostly it. But in many traditions, everybody wears the same color of robe, which is usually black. And it serves the same purpose as going skyclad does in erasing social distinctions. You get into this circle and you all look the same, and suddenly you are all absolutely equal. And that's very important when you're working magic together. You must be absolute peers. Even when somebody is the high priestess or high priest and the rest are, for instance, first degrees or neophytes, once you step into that circle, somebody may be leading it because they know more than everybody else, but magically and spiritually, you are equals, and your robe emphasizes that.
And you said that you all had to make your robes.
Yes.
So, yeah, and one of the things is you also talk about, your book is called Simple Robes for Crafty Witches. And I love the description it references this underground economy of the 1970s.
It's such a good book title. Also, I really love it.
Yeah. So tell us more about the book, and also, what is the underground economy?
Well, let's start with the underground economy. Now, in the 1970s, okay, backtracking just a little bit. In the part of the country that I was in, I don't know about anybody else, in the part of the country that I was in, which was Southern California, witchcraft was very counterculture. Basically, we all started out as hippies. And making things yourself was an important part of the counterculture because it took you out of, I'm not sure how to describe it. It took you out of the economy.
Out of capitalism?
Out of capitalism. Of course, you wound up having to own a sewing machine, capitalism, and buy your fabric, capitalism, and that sort of thing. But we believed very strongly that homemade was better. Homegrown was better. Doing it yourself added more energy to it. It made it more truly your own, and it took you outside of the mainstream. And there were these designs for caftans and gowns and tunics and stuff like that circulated via very primitive Xerox machines. And some people were even still using mimeograph, from hand to hand to hand, for how to make these things. They weren't patterns like a Simplicity or a Butterick that you buy in the fabric store now. They were simply a sketch and instruct how to do it in half a dozen, maybe 20 at the most, lines. And because we were all part of that underground economy, which today is called the sharing economy and is considered very radical again, we had access to this stuff, and we sometimes wore them as street clothes. And when we made them out of special fabrics with special intention, they became robes. There's so much about the underground economy of the 60s and 70s that people no longer know. That's so hard to explain. But it was truly a collective. People just shared stuff. Even in the craft, if you were an initiate, it didn't matter an initiate of what. You were a witch and everybody shared. So, like I said, this is very complicated. We were into reclaiming our self-sufficiency. It was anti-capitalism. It was into simple living, sharing, and communal work. And the idea, again, that homemade is always best. But also, in those days, we believed that the craft was a peasant thing, that it was the remnant of what the country folk believed and did after the city folk, and especially the courts, adopted Christianity. And so these simple garments for ourselves was a way of identifying with what we believed were our ancestors.
How did you feel about that? Like, how did this process connect you to your own ancestors?
Well, not genetic ancestors, but the ancestors that we believed were the source of the craft. And I'm not sure it particularly connected me to it, but it connected us as subculture to what we thought was our roots. These days, we know that Wicca is more complicated than that. But this is before scholars started looking into it. And all we had was our myths.
Yeah, I mean, I think it used to be so hard to get information, to gather information. We talk about that.
Oh, you have no idea.
I can't even imagine in that time period, because even for us, when we started getting interested in this practice, it was in the 90s, right? And even then it was very hard to find resources, because we didn't have the internet. Now we have the opposite problem.
Even it is now, that's for sure.
Right. It's that we have the opposite issue now, right? It's like now it's there's so much info. What do you choose from?
Well, the hard part now is separating the truth from the bullshit.
Exactly.
I think
for sure.
First book I read about the modern craft, other than the Witch's Almanac, was Paul Hewson's Mastering Witchcraft. And it's still one of the best.
And I think there's it's interesting because, we talk about, one of the reasons we've talked about this on the podcast before, but one of the reasons we wanted to start the podcast is because, the problem we had when we were in the 90s, trying to, it's like, you could go to maybe you might be able to find a new agey shop that maybe had a couple of books, maybe, or you might be able to find one or two resources in the library, but it was limited to what you could find, if at all, depending on where you were, especially. And, now, it's what do people sift through? How do they know what's true or not? How do they know what's a good resource? So one of the reasons we wanted to start the podcast was because we wanted to, to vet people, to look at the information out there and make sure it's quality information, and then invite those people on to be able to do that,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because I think that, I agree that these things that we whether it be robes or items or things that are identifiers, especially when, it was so much more of a subculture, people were much less, out about it. They weren't, talking about, it was a much more underground thing, or much less, publicly visible thing. It's a great way to feel connected to people. I still feel that way. I do ritual performance art, and when I put on what I'm going to wear for a live ritual, right, is it puts me in that, puts me in that element. And so I think that connection, whether it be an item or a piece of clothing or, something that ties you, it really does make you feel connected to other people. I think that's so true.
It really does. And you hit upon something there. I forget who said it, but I've read and agree with the statement that good ritual is good theater, and good theater is good ritual.
That's one of the first things I learned in the craft. And I struggled with that for a while. But I've really come to appreciate that over the years. But Please continue. Good
ritual is good theater, and good theater is good ritual. Just ritual with not a whole lot put into it doesn't capture people's interest, so it's not good theater. And just lame-o theater does not make a good ritual.
Yeah, it's true. If it's over the top. Yeah.
You need to put passion into either of them, or they don't work.
That's super true. I think that, something that it's funny because if you read interviews from stuff that I did years ago, you would see me saying oh no, my ritual and my performance art are two different things. Because, for me, it was like, I just didn't know how to describe really what I was doing and performing, like what I was performing. I mean, I definitely was doing elements of ritual in the performances, but because it felt theatrical, I was like, well, but this doesn't feel intimate. And for me, ritual was often intimate, or like not necessarily like small. I like to be, I'm an elaborate person, but like, that it was like, it was intimate, like as in like with close people, with people I trust, with people that are, that are also practicing. And then as I continued to grow, kind of shift through my own practice, I realized that it was actually really interesting to be able to present ritual for people to experience, because they get to be part of it, but it takes the, if they're, for me, it takes the pressure off of like, I have to know exactly what to do. What if I don't, it allows people to come and witness, but also be affected by the experience that they're witnessing. And I think that, I think that, when I see live ritual, especially performance ritual, the stuff that really moves me is the stuff that is like, not overly minimalistic and also not over the top, super showy. It's just honest and authentic, but it has an element that but you're thinking about connecting with the people that are observing, right? So it's not just like, I'm just going to watch this person do this thing. That's boring,
Well, I think part of the problem that you touch on here is that the modern mind, anything having to do with theater is false, is fake, it's pretend. Whereas ritual is supposed to be transformative. But we know, those of us who've been through it know that good theater is not false and fake. Good theater will rip you up, and so will good ritual. Or they will give you great comfort that you were not expecting. It's part of the modern Western society's dichotomy with the corporeal and the spiritual. And theater is seen as, for lack of a better word, a mundane thing. It's something people do for entertainment and for money, whereas ritual is transcendent. But the truth is that there is no real divide.
Wait, they have similar roots. The thought is that, our ancient human ancestors used to, whether it's like reenacting a hunt in order to invite a successful hunt the next time around, or that's how they were able to preserve their histories and lessons, for the community, is that they were, the act was one and the same, the ritual and the theater, so to speak. And it was,
Yes.
Yeah. With that though, do you feel like modern witches misunderstand the role of the robe? And if so, what do you feel is most misunderstood about the robe?
That's hard. I think that, like most other tools, the robe has become a consumer item. And people don't care that they're buying stuff that's made of plastic and was created in a slave shop in China, and I don't see how that shit can be magical. But the modern witches of the last 20 years or so don't seem to have any problem with that. They don't want to learn how to make their own a lot of the time, which is one of the reasons why I emphasized that these were really simple. It's because I came up in a time when people made their own to the extent that they could. Like, I was never able and would never be able to make my own athame, but I could take a plain knife and make magic changes to it and decorations to it that made it into a proper athame and not a plain knife. But one of my students, this teeny weeny little 4-foot nothing girl, when it came time for her athame, apprenticed herself to a smith and started with a cube of steel and wound up with an athame. I could never do that. But to me, it's so important to make your mark, to make it your own on everything you use. But just this is the whole idea that, oh, well, I'll just go online and buy one, makes me crazy.
So, but which kind of leads me to my next question about, I am just horrific with a sewing machine, and like you said, they're can't necessarily do anything out of metal. And I know a lot of modern witches, they try to purchase from independent artisans or craftsmen or people that they know. But along the lines of the thought of making your own, what do you say to witches who are like, I just don't have the ability, or I don't have the know-how, and I have no idea how to do it? What would you say to that?
Well, I would say, number one, cutting it out right is more important than sewing it right. If you cut it out straight, you can hardly mess it up, which means buy a decent pair of scissors. Don't go to the Dollar Tree. That said, there's a couple things you can do. One of them is discussed in the book, which is to hand sew it. It takes a while, but with these simple designs, you start with a ruler and a pencil and some pins, and you pin both sides together, and then about a half an inch from the edge, you draw a line, and you hand stitch along that line. It takes quite a while, but you can get a really handmade robe. But since I wrote the book, I have discovered that there is such a thing as fabric glue.
Okay, now you're speaking to my language for sure. Talk to me about this fabric glue phenomenon on robes. Like, okay, here we go.
So there you go. Again, you need to make a straight line, and you apply the fabric glue along the line and press the two halves together and let it sit until it's dry.
We should brand our own magical fabric glue, like supercharged intentional fabric glue for witches who suck at sewing.
Have you ever heard of stitch witchery?
Oh, yes, I've heard of it.
Stitch witchery. Stitch witchery is a tape made of a very fine nylon web, and you put it between two pieces of fabric and iron it, and again, you glue it together. And
I have actually used that before, and it works wonderfully.
It's great stuff. Oh, for hems, it's the best thing on earth.
I literally I'm like, my life is going to be changed knowing this, because I can mend things, like I can hand stitch things, but like I am not, if it's like something large or it's like something, I'm just like, I just didn't learn that skill at all. So like, I'm like, this is awesome.
I am 77 years old. And in my day, all girls learned to sew. These days, not so much. Sewing in a necessity is a hobby for those that like that sort of thing. So that's one of the main reasons I wrote the book. It's fairly simple. You just have to be able to guide a straight line, whether it's with sewing machine or your hand or stitch witchery or whatever. As you'll probably notice, except for the necklines, these are all done with straight lines.
You also have something amazing at the end of your book where you actually say some of your readers had asked you how to bless and consecrate their robes. And you give an example of kind of how to do that. Could you kind of talk people through, maybe someone has a robe that they just haven't used yet, or maybe it just doesn't feel right to them yet? What is something that someone can do to really kind of connect themselves to their robe?
You start making this thing with the intention that this should be a ritual robe. And that's step one in making it magical. The first thing you do, of course, when you sew anything is to wash the fabric. Anything. Because heaven knows what kind of schmutz is hiding on it. And since most fabric these days comes from unpleasant places, you might throw a little bit of consecrated salt in your wash water. I do that with every load of laundry. A little consecrated salt in wash water to banish any negative energies. When it's out and dry, before you sew it, start sewing on it, you'll probably want to iron it just because it's easier to work with while it's flat. But while you're ironing it, you can again think in terms of perfecting it, making it magical, making it beautiful. From the book, we talk about a simple ritual where you set up your altar, you put a candle and some incense, a little consecrated salt and water, and you hold the fabric, which is going to be a big piece. I mean, these robes are from the back of your neck to the floor and back again, so that you're talking at least 4 yards and probably maybe more. And you either have it folded or just gather it up in your arms, and you pass it over the candle, you pass it through the incense, you sprinkle it with a little of the consecrated water, and you bless it. And you tell it, you are going to be a witch robe. You are going to be a magical tool. You are going to be my connection to my magical self. And just stay conscious while you work on it. A lot of making things magical is simply staying conscious while you do the work.
Oh, that's so true. It is.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That is
such an important reminder.
Really, really beautiful, and just absolutely, I think, the wisdom that we all need to remember.
Thank you.
Oh, and well, thank you. This has just been glorious and so informative and helpful. And so, where can people find you and find out more about your work and pick up this lovely book?
Well, the book is available on Amazon. It's self-published because it's a very small book and publishers want something big for that. All my books are small because I say what I say and that's all. So it's on Amazon. You can search either under my name, Dana Corby, or the name of the book, Simple Robes for Crafty Witches. And it's available only in paperback right now because there is so much art in it that it's next to impossible to turn it into an ebook. And besides, it's kind of hard to read an ebook while you're trying to sew something.
Yeah.
I'm also on Facebook. Again, just search on Dana Corby. There's my personal account, which is just Dana Corby, and I have a business page, Dana Corby, The Witches, Runes, and More.
Lovely.
Well, thank you so much for being with us and sharing this information and this wisdom. Very, very thankful. I think this is going to mean a lot to a lot of people. We do have quite a few crafty witches that will that tune in, and I think I'm just excited that there's fabric glue, and I'm going to go out there and make all the fabric glue.
I'm magical. Like, that's the magic of the century for me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for your hospitality and your kindness, and I'm just delighted for this opportunity. I hope I come across you again.
Oh, I'm sure you will. We make a big stink wherever we go. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will talk to everybody next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to That Witch Life podcast. Our music is by Dustin Schultz, editing by Corey Drake. If you like what we do, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the show, you can buy us a coffee or check out our merch on our Etsy store, or join us on Patreon for bonus content, ad-free episodes, or to join our Witch Squad. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For show notes, audio transcript, or to ask us a question to answer on a future episode, go to thatwitchlife.com. Until then, keep moding that shit. We will talk to you next week.
So mote it be.